cycled here earlier. I was just very curious.
Yeah.
But because I was just very curious what this was.
It's showing our love and support to the former president.
Right.
Our former president. Do you know his case? You have read it for sure.
I heard on the news, on social media, but like the thing is, it doesn't go in full detail.
Yeah.
What are your nationality? That's
I'm Dutch.
Okay.
Yeah. But me and my sister, we were born in Singapore. So
Yeah.
like in
Basically new, sort of.
We've seen a lot about we've seen a lot in Asia. So we've lived in Singapore.
And you also understand that the drug problem in the Philippines is quite heavy.
I've heard. Yeah, that's the one thing I have heard about. Like
You've been to the Philippines?
only once, but that was
Where in the
definitely
Philippines?
A few years ago. It was during Christmas.
Christmas. Which year?
I don't dare.
2021, 22?
Oh no!
Definitely later.
More years ago.
More years ago. Okay.
Because I live here now 9 years,
9
and
years.
also for my studies.
Yeah.
But it definitely longer than
Yeah.
9 years ago when I was last in the Philippines.
So, because he's charged now with crimes against humanity and those kind of like the ICC thing,
Right.
Basically, and he's basically detained illegally detained. We call it pre-trial detention because that's how the ICC. Yeah.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. He was surrendered, by the way, by
our government.
few Filipinos here,
Right.
who actually orchestrated the surrender of him being in the custody of ICC right now,
Right.
which we strongly go against because we want him to be brought back to the Philippines. And you know for sure that the Philippines is basically a sovereign state, and we are in no way under a colony of the Netherlands or the ICC in general. Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a perfectly functioning judiciary, and that we are no longer an ICC member state since March 17 of 2019. So the charges under which he is being detained for are most likely not within the time that we are already we are a member of the ICC. And also we assert that as the former president, he is very much likely keen to face all the charges and then file it into our local courts, not here at the ICC, because again we assert that they don't have jurisdiction. And then probably you have heard that there were 20 to 30,000 killings that he was charged for.
I've heard. I'm talking about just the top layer.
Of course, of course.
Because I know when he became president that he definitely put a lot of. I mean, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but there were quite a lot of strict rules when it comes to the usage of drugs.
It's called war on drugs.
That was it.
And it is a perfectly legitimate government operation because the drug problem in the Philippines, particularly in our society, has already permeated and destroyed a lot of families and lives in general.
I can imagine because I actually was cycling here earlier this in the afternoon, and I was very curious because drugs was the number one thing that was going in my head.
Because that's what they write about him only as well. Before he ran for presidency, drug problem is so bad that he actually received an overwhelming mandate of 16 million voting him for office. His campaign promise, actually he ran under the platform of ensuring that safety and security in our country is very much felt by an ordinary citizen, that we are able to walk day and night anywhere feeling safe together with our daughter or son, whatever, or moms,
Right.
And then he actually won in 2016, and as what he promised before running for presidency, then he actually just executed all of the existing laws that we have or whatnot. There's nothing special, but what they write for the international community to be consumed is that if you are associated to drugs, or if you do something related to drugs or whatnot, or whatever activities, that you're just shot right there and you're dead.
Right.
That's definitely not the case.
Because I also find that, or like I find this interesting because I was trying to compare that, like of course like the drugs here in the Netherlands, is of course allowed, but of course with regulations when it comes to coffee shops.
But I think to compare that to the Netherlands is like comparing apples and oranges, because here we have a different geographical context, and there's a lot of elements there that you need to consider. Our culture, the way people think there, and the problems that we're facing are definitely far from what's happening in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, people are very much well aware of their limitations, even in as far as using drugs is concerned, and they exercise those limitations very well. They follow the guidelines. But in the Philippines, the how do we say that, the use of drugs has actually destroyed their minds. Then it led to murder, it led to whatever other crimes.
Oh, so
and also rape.
So kind of like
it's not an epidemic, it's a pandemic there.
Right.
We treat it, it's not in the same way that Dutch people see the use of drugs as some sort of like leisure, or sometimes it could lead to medical issues later on, but it could be cured. And also that is what he offers as well for people who are addicted to drugs. You can go to rehab, you can go to any other options in order for you to save your life and your family. And that's family is the basic unit in our society, and we need to protect that. And if you don't protect the family, what else is left in a society like the Philippines? We are a developing country, and we are currently more than 120 million strong. During his time, it was, I think, 110 to 160 million. I'm not sure about the numbers, but that's approximately on top of my head. But the fact of the matter is that it was necessary to do that, and the people of the Philippines actually mandated him to do that. That was the result of a democratic process of voting him to office. It was an overwhelming sort of majority by then, but currently our president was voted with 31 million. But during his time, that was an unprecedented number of being voted. Exactly.
So his election skyrocketed.
Exactly. So now we find it really insulting that as Filipino and as a sovereign country to be judged by a foreign entity who does not even understand how our community or how our culture is. And they only see, of course, killing somebody is definitely not allowed. This is definitely resonated all across cultures. You should never kill. But I know that the Dutch society in general, they already see him as a murderer, because that's the narrative that has been already permeated for years, even when because he has a very strong statement about, I will kill you, I will do this, I will do that. But when he was mayor back then, before he became president, that was the type of language or communication he also echoes to the community. That's why Davao, the city where he was mayor before,
I was just about to ask, like, was he mayor of Milan?
He was mayor of Davao. It's actually from the southern part of the Philippines. Was recognized as one of the most safest countries in the world. That's actually what his Exhibit A in order for him to become president, because he already showed to the entire Philippines that I did this to Davao, and if you're going to make me president, this is what I'm going to do to the Philippines. And as he promised, he just wanted to. It comes with, of course, a lot of elements there.
A high price.
Exactly, a high price. And he's willing. What he told the police, the enforcement agency or arm of the government, is that as long as you carry your duty within the bounds of the law, as long as you do that, I will definitely answer for you. But he shouldn't be answerable for people who are making their decisions based on, there will be rogue police. In the same way that in our society here in the Netherlands, there are also people who does not obey the law.
Exactly.
But are you going to be answerable for that? That's what they are charging him for. Isolated cases such as the killing of a teenager called Kian de los Santos. I remember very well. I know. I'm just saying that in order for you to have a bigger understanding of these isolated cases where a teenager was dead, and then the narrative or the statement follows that he was killed because of a legitimate drug operation. He explicitly said that if the police did something wrong, we are going to charge him. We are going to have him undergo a process, and if he is found guilty, then he's going to be imprisoned, because we don't have death sentence unlike Singapore.
Exactly. Because of course in Singapore, the laws of drugs is very strict.
Exactly. We don't even need to talk anymore if you carry drugs in Singapore immediately.
There's no statement. You can't defend yourself, because the rule over there, it's already like, hey, you got drugs, and even though you can't say somebody may have put it in there. Let's
put it this way: if you're a Dutch citizen, you're definitely covered under the Dutch law, and as a sovereign country, the Netherlands. So let's say, for example, you did something because out of, how do I say that? out of program that you wanted to present to the society, it so happened that a lot of people died. Let's say 10, for example. So, for example, then would you allow a foreign entity to charge you or to try you in a foreign land?
That's
pretty
so,
tame.
yeah,
That's why if you try to put yourself in a sovereign country's state situation, particularly right now with President Duterte, would you allow that? Isn't that an insult, directly an insult to the judicial system of the Netherlands? You have a Supreme Court. Why didn't you file charges there? If the evidences are so overwhelming, if you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like, unfortunately, I'm very, like, once again, like, I only know the very basic information of how the international law works.
That's why what we are trying to reach medias right now, to cover the other side. To cover the other side, expressing the views of what really is the reality of living in the Philippines and why is it necessarily to do these things before.
Right.
He even expressed if he will be given a chance to become president again, he will do it again and again.
I have a very curious question.
Go ahead.
Like, so I want to try and see if I can connect the lines here. Because when he became president and he was explaining about when it comes to the drugs or when and I apologize if I
no go ahead, just be direct, be Dutch. Yeah.
So because he did say, like, because he said or like we mentioned something like when he said when people are having drugs and they will be executed on the spot.
That's the narrative or the perception.
Right.
That's the perception of the international community that you will not go under any due process or whatnot. You'll just be killed.
Okay, because I was confused because I was trying to connect the dots when saying like. But if you get executed on the spot, how will you get to the rehabilitation?
Yeah, exactly. But no, but that's the perception of the international community, that there's no due process in the Philippines. That as long as you're associated to whatever drug activities, you're just going to be killed right there.
Right.
But that's not the point.
But how does the majority of the citizens in the Philippines think about now these past few years?
Yeah. Okay.
When the
answer is very clear.
Yeah.
Because when he left the presidency, he received plus 81 net satisfaction rating, which is actually the highest in history, in the Philippine history, that the president received such trust or net satisfaction rating that they still trust his performance as president. Yeah. In fact, if he was given another opportunity to serve, he will definitely win.
Yeah.
Because the Filipinos felt safer. It is what was needed. In the Philippines, because drugs was definitely destroying not only families but also a lot of people are being killed just because people are under the influence of drugs. In the Netherlands, you cannot compare it because people here they try to, how do I say it? They know how to use drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Party pills, these kind of things. There's so many ways.
Absolutely, yeah. Like knowing that weed is of course allowed here, but of course there's a lot of like paperwork that has to be put in with the coffee shops, and when it comes to, for example, for tourism, like if they come, they need to now show
for recreational.
So they now need to show their license.
You can even own marijuana here. Yeah, but
like for like a very small amount.
Exactly, you can grow it at your home, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
but like I mean,
in the Philippines, it's not allowed, huh? It's illegal to use marijuana.
Right.
It's illegal to own marijuana, especially if you have it grown for commercial purposes. That's definitely not allowed.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter remains is that it will never erase the reality that we are a sovereign state. If we go back in history, our forefathers fought so hard, so many bloods were spilled, so many people need to die for the liberty that we're experiencing today.
Spain and the United States.
We were colonized 3 times.
So, yes.
Japan,
Spain,
United States, and Japan.
Of course.
So our story goes back to the history. That's why we want to impose and we want to claim that we are a sovereign people. We have a sovereign state. We don't need an ICC. If this is not political, I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Because why is it not exactly? That's the only conclusion, the logical conclusion here. Because if the evidences points out to be really overwhelming, file it in our local courts. Let the justice prevail. Let the judicial process roll as it should be.
Yeah.
If that's why I'm also sort of, how do I say this, urging the Netherlands. If the Netherlands really champions human rights and this particular due process, if you value the due process or human rights, even if you are accused of something, you still should be accorded due process, which is written in any democratic constitution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. Like if you look at the international court, and for example, like I mean, it's clear as day. The United States doesn't like it. Russia doesn't like it. China doesn't like it.
Thank you for saying that.
Because those are the military powerhouses, and you know they. I mean, we've heard rumors. We've heard it. Like if I go back to 2014,
Yeah.
when Malaysian Airlines was flying over Ukraine and it was shot down
Correct.
with by a rocket. Russia said we didn't do it, but clearly we saw evidence.
It
Was a military equipment that came from Russia, went to Ukraine. The evidence was crystal clear. But then the problem is when it comes to the international court with the Netherlands and Australia, because that's where most civilians were on that plane. We like both our nations are saying we need to bring Vladimir Putin to the court because he's done, and also if you're looking at Ukraine right now, so much is
Because you know why? The ICC works in a relationship of complementarity. They don't have police power.
Exactly.
They don't have police power. They actually rely in the cooperation of a member state.
Yes.
That's where we came in. That's where we come in. We are not a member state anymore of the ICC. So you cannot exercise your supposed jurisdiction over us because we are no longer part of the ICC member.
So the Philippines is no longer.
No, since March 17, 2019. But still, they accepted communication from individuals, sort of detractors, about this particular case.
Because, may I? Sorry, I just want to quickly.
Yes.
So the Filipino government or the police captured him, or sorry, what's the,
How do I say
sorry,
that?
my bad.
Yeah, okay. This is I think to be, how do I say that? Politically correct about the statement. What they did is that they expressed that they did not cooperated with the ICC, but they cooperated through the Interpol because there was a communication. I don't know what technical term or jargon was used, but there was a communication via Interpol that there was a warrant of arrest for him.
Right.
So technically what they're saying, we did not cooperate with the ICC because again, we maintain that the ICC do not have jurisdiction over us.
Right.
We are a sovereign state and because we are no longer a member state, we should never cooperate. And our president also, the current president, expressly, vividly said that we don't want to cooperate with the ICC because we maintain our independence and we are not part of the ICC anymore. That's what he said.
Yeah.
But again, many Filipinos have seen that this is an orchestrated move. In fact, the ombudsman already asked these individuals to explain what is it that you really have done, what are the laws that you have done, even if we already have expressed Rule 59 of the ICC with respect to the arrest. They still said we did everything within the bounds of law, so they justified what they did.
Yeah, right.
But still, the Filipino people want this particular person who, by the way, just won the mayoral race, and exactly,
Really?
he was again voted by the city of Davao, the citizens of Davao, with an astonishing more than 600,000 people, and then the opponent only received less than maybe 100,000. If he was such a murderess, why was he still? The logic. Any logical person would say.
Does he also have somebody?
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No. And of course, that's no
They're from the
problem at
US,
all.
Yeah.
Ireland, other countries.
And we are not only from the Netherlands, we're also from Hawaii, from America.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
People actually spend their hard-earned money, time, and resources to be here, be one with the Filipino in solidarity to express our unwavering love and support. What is it that you were about to say? You have somebody, what did you say?
Oh yeah, sorry. Is there somebody in his right hand that is now running or the government over?
No. He is no longer president. But before he was arrested, he actually filed his candidacy to run as mayor of the city of Davao. But it's just so happened that before the election, the 11th of March, that's it will be marked in history that's the time that he was surrendered.
Yeah.
When he was from Hong Kong, when he landed in Manila, he was put on a plane, and then that plane flew here directly to the Netherlands. Well, actually had landed in Dubai first, but traveled
like
here. Yeah,
Dubai,
exactly.
yeah.
But still,
Then he wasn't president at that point.
no, not anymore. He finished his presidency in 2022.
Okay,
We now have a new
A new
president.
president, and that's like does he follow the same steps, or is it
No,
more
no.
less-
Because each president has different point of view or whatnot. But as president, you're the chief architect
Yeah.
of the Philippines when it comes to international
Right.
foreign relations.
I have a very other interesting question.
Yes, go ahead.
If you like see about the laws about the drugs, there was also something he was talking about. Something about the churches, but about the priests. But I do not know.
In any democratic institution, there's definitely a clear separation of church and state.
Right.
So
Okay, yeah.
so that's
So,
he's saying. Perhaps in my understanding, with how you asked, there's definitely should be a clear separation of church and state.
Exactly.
That the church should not intervene with the state matters, and vice versa. So basically, whatever the decision of the state shouldn't be intervened by the church, and vice versa as well.
Right. Okay. So then I quickly want to. So back to linking to my question.
Yeah.
Because like throughout these years, was there also a change of mind in the Filipino civilized
no.
Society?
No, he's even more popular now
He's more
that he was
popular
brought
now.
here.
Okay.
Because we see him as a living hero. You know why? Because he brought to the Philippines what we needed when we exactly needed. We're almost a narco state by then, but he was there.
Right.
He sacrificed his life, his time. All of his life was meant for public service and
Yeah.
office.
Right.
He only wanted to service the Filipino people for the betterment of our country and advancing the interest and welfare of the Filipino, especially in the international community. He brought about our mentality of independence and to be proud of our Filipino identity.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, we Filipinos are seen in the international community as nothing as but just a meek follower of whatever bigger country.
I feel it's like especially the United States.
Exactly.
Like because that could, I mean like
He was very expressive with his statements that we want independence from. It was then Barack Obama, I think, during his time.
Right.
Yeah. So all of his foreign policies are aimed at ensuring that we have independence, because that's what he's asked for as a president. You need to make sure that the welfare or the interests of the Philippines, your country, that your president, should be taken first.
And I can imagine as well, for example, like because I know I the one story I do know is about, for example, in the Filipino coastlines where
Manila Bay.
Chinese
okay.
the Chinese own made islands were made where a lot of Filipino fishermen they're being escorted back
Yeah.
to the shore.
Is this in the Ayangan shore? Or?